Before we get started on our topic, just a few things. We're here till 12:20 Eastern Time today. I will stop wherever we are and see what questions we've got, try to get those answered for you. If you have questions, please type them into the questions portion of the webinar control panel. Please keep the questions on topic, basically talking about paying from a liability. I'm pretty good about repeating the question so everyone understands what's being asked and then trying to get those questions answered. The webinar is being recorded today, so we will be posting this event on our support center page here at churchwindows.com sometime within the next week or 10 days. To find all of our webinars and videos and training videos and documents out there, go to supporting the menu here. Everybody should see that at our homepage. Go down to our support center. It takes a few seconds to load that page, but down here at the bottom of this screen, is our ever-growing list of videos and documents that we have generally taken from the webinars here. We do try to keep the webinars in line or use the Church Windows workbooks as the guide for the bulk of our webinars or our training classes here. So today's event is taken from our Accounting 103 workbook. If you don't have the workbooks, they're very helpful. They're constructed differently. If you go here to beginning and click the down arrow, we've got the one called Training Workbooks. They can be purchased right here online. Downloadable for $12 per workbook. Very useful, very helpful. A lot of folks like that, but they are the printed material I'm using for today's event is taken from the A103 workbook here, pages 35 to 40. So they are frequently very helpful and can help folks who are unfamiliar with the software get up to date. So let's go ahead and get started. So liabilities, so let's go back into accounting now. We're going to start this conversation on accounting. Basically, liabilities are any monies that are owed. Whether it's a vendor that you're paying a bill to, entering and paying a bill to, or a deduction from payroll, or a pass-through account from donations. You've got money that's coming in from donations that's being passed on to another, say, third-party nonprofit. An emergency, hurricane relief or something like that, loans or mortgages. Again, anything that the church winds up owing or paying on to another company or organization is going to be set up or considered as a liability. So if we go into our chart of accounts here, and I'm going to collapse everything down and we're going to expand our liabilities. We've got our separate 200 accounts listed here. Listed, under our 200s, so 941 taxes payable, state taxes, county, prepaid pledges. Now, those aren't monies that are paid on, but they're certainly paid back to the church or moved into an account. Line of credit, mortgage payable, anything that's owed. If we click the plus sign next to accounts payable, we also see all of our vendor accounts too. All of those are classified in Church Windows as liabilities, okay? The difference between our liabilities and our accounts payable vendors is accounts payable is a ledger account under which all of our accounts payable vendors are listed. The primary difference between a liability account and an accounts payable vendor is an accounts payable vendor does not have a specific number 2 account assigned to it, okay? But it is still categorized in the chart of accounts as a liability. So if I choose, say, Alex's Plumbing, and I steer my focus here to the right-hand side, I have all of the same tabs listed here that I do as any other liability. Detail, balance, tree view, vendor, payee, okay? If I click back here, up here under, say, 941 taxes payable, still have detail, balance, tree view, and vendor payee. So they function virtually exactly the same. There are some reporting differences on them, but in terms of the chart of accounts, they all categorize or fall under the category of liabilities, okay? That's a really important thing to understand, okay? That liabilities could be a number 2 account or a vendor. They're all liabilities, okay? Basically anything the church owes, OWES, is classified as a liability, all right? In whatever shape or form that occurs, it's going to be categorized as a liability. So at the bottom of page 35, it talks about paying the 941 tax deposit, okay? So what makes this unique, of course, is that it's not recorded as a bill. The balance is brought over from Church Windows Payroll, and Payroll takes care of debiting all of those different expense accounts, crediting all the accounts in accounting, and we simply need to get the payment recorded in accounting to pay that. I mean, this would be true even if you don't own Church Windows Payroll. If you go in and decide to post and set up journal entries to debit the various expenses and credit those liability accounts, you would record the payroll tax liability in exactly the same manner, okay? It doesn't really matter. So if we go into Church Windows Payroll, this is where this fundamentally starts. We go to Reports, say Pay Period Deductions Report, go to Next. We're going to enter our month, our deposit schedule, say, is monthly, so we're going to enter, we're paying September's tax liability. We're going to run it for the entire month. Our deposit schedule is monthly. We go to Next. Right down here on our, and this is now at the top of page 36 in our workbook, folks, it shows right here down the left-hand side of our 941, or our Pay Period Deductions Report, 941 deposit of $2,163.24. Let me zoom in a little bit, see if I can't help a little bit with that. Right here. So 941 deposit, $2,163.24. Shows the breakdown. It even goes so far as to show over here to the right in the column for state, shows what my state tax liability is. So right here, state, down at the bottom, $265.96. Okay? All of these taxes are paid in exactly the same way. Okay? So once I've determined what that amount is, $2,163.24 and $265.96, I'm ready to now go back into accounting, and I'm going to bypass the enter bills process. In the case of this particular situation, I don't need to enter a bill. Payroll's taking care of dealing with all of that for me, okay? So I'd go to pay directly to Pay Bills, and we're going to go right up here to Quick Pay at the top, and we're going to choose View Vendors with a Balance. We're not going to choose View Outstanding Bills because, again, there are no bills for our payroll taxes. All we've done is generate a balance in that vendor account or in that liability for our federal taxes, or state, as the case may be. So we choose View Vendors with a Balance, and it pops up with all of our vendors or liabilities with a balance. So here's our 941 tax payable account, and hey, what do you know? We have no payments or payroll calculated in the month of October yet. So our balance that's sitting in our 941 tax payable is exactly what the payroll program said we owed. And right down here under state, the same thing. Many states will not be paid but quarterly, but we're going to assume in this case that, say, the state of Ohio is expecting a tax payment to occur monthly, tax deposit. So right here, my state tax account shows the same $265.96. And I can go in and post these payments to suit those or match those exactly. So I would put a check mark next to my 941 account and or my state tax account, and I would go to click Create Payments. I would then simply record that, starting on the left, record my date. Today's fine. It's being paid out of my Huntington Bank checking account. And I would put in the amount, 2163.24, I think that was, if I go back there and check that. Yep, and then 265.96. So put in 265.96. I would choose the appropriate payment method. You know, I can have them be different if they want. if I want to write a check for the state and have the federal tax being deposited electronically, I can do that, but we're going to assume in this case they're both paid electronically. No check or reference number is required, but if I wish to put one in there, I certainly may, and any subsequent comments, and then I would simply click Post. Okay? And those payments have been posted. If I go back to Manage Accounts and choose my 941 tax payable and go back to the Balance tab, what do you know? My now October balance is 0. I could certainly backdate that into September if I wish. It doesn't matter if it doesn't clear till October. I just simply won't clear it on my September bank reconciliation, and it'll leave it as outstanding withdrawals until I get to October. Okay? If the balance is sitting in the liability or vendor account and it's not a bill, I'm going to post the payments in exactly the same manner. As page 37 now moves on and talks about us paying money from a pass-through liability. So right here on our chart of accounts, this is a good spot to be for this. So right here, I've got my plus sign next to my pass-through accounts. I've got a ledger set up for all of my pass-throughs, and I'm now wanting to post my crop walk payment. Okay? So I click on crop walk right here in the chart of accounts. I go to the balance tab on the right, and right here it clearly shows me that I've got a current balance of $455, beginning balance, current balance. It's just going to carry on and show whatever the balance is as of today. So I would similarly do something very similar to what I just did with my taxes. I would close out, go back into Pay Bills, back up to Quick Pay, and view vendors with a balance, or I can find Crop Walk right here under my Select Vendor Payee to Pay. Shows me the balance there too. Click on Add to Batch, same thing, editing my date occurred on the left that I'm wanting on the payment transaction, choosing the appropriate asset, entering the amount to pay. So sure, we're going to pay the full balance of that. And let's say I do want to print a check. I would just leave it as computer check, and I would click simply Post or Post and Print Checks. Yes, if I go back to View Vendors with the Balance, Crop Walk is there too, as was any of the others. If disaster relief recovery is there, let's say we've raised some money, say, for the folks in the Carolinas down there for hurricane that occurred, earlier. We can pay that, write that check to American Red Cross or whomever that we're wanting. It is important to understand, though, that we want to make sure that each one of these liabilities are set up specifically for the payee or vendor that we're paying. Okay? We don't want to go in and change that vendor information between payments, because the audit trail then is rendered useless. So if you've got different projects and checks are made payable to different groups or companies, you want to set up a separate liability for each one of those. But then we would simply click Post or Post and Print Checks, and the check goes into the print queue. Okay? And I want to mention that on there. That's mentioned about how the important that we that there is a mentioning of that in there, that it says on there. I'm trying to find it on the page, folks. Sorry. Well, I'm sorry. I'm struggling to find that. I'm not going to do that. But those are not entered as bills, okay? So that's why it makes those unique. We're skipping over the enter bills process, and we're going right into the pay bills window, and we're simply recording that payment because the balance is already there waiting for us. Sorry, it's on the middle of page 39, folks. Very important. It's important to accounting that you pay only one vendor out of a liability account because of the audit trail, okay? Very, very important, okay? Then what that means is that right here under our chart of accounts is that when I go to my 941 taxes payable and I go to my vendor payee tab, these checks are going to be made payable to the Internal Revenue Service each and every time, or EFTPS, or whomever your payments are made payable to. I can't go in and change this account change this name or DBA information in between payments because it's going to change previous payments to whatever the information currently shows. Okay? So different liabilities should be set up for different names or payees or checks. Okay? All right, so that's it, folks. That's our topic for today. So can skip over the enter bills process and go right to pay bills when paying directly from those when the balances are waiting. Let's see what questions we've got. What is the reason to use a pass-through account for something like crop walk instead of setting them up as a vendor? Well, I mean, there isn't really, Holly. I mean, that's a great question. What the purpose of that is, we're sending the money directly into the liability or vendor from donations. We're wanting to bypass our treasurer's report. You could send that right into the vendor account, if I'm not mistaken. If we go into transfer donations, go to our default account links. I think down here there's crop walk. See, we're sending it directly from donations into crop walk. I believe if I scroll down here, nope, it won't. So that's why. So it's because it's coming over into a liability. I can't send it directly into a vendor account from donations. So that's what necessitates us having to set it up as a liability. Great question. Can't you set the vendor at the Create Payments tab? I'm not sure I'm understanding that question, Diane, but I don't think we can. Again, any of that information is brought in to the Pay Bills window based on what's under our Vendor Payee tab on our chart of accounts. So an example of that would be under my pass-throughs. If I've got my disaster relief recovery, that's the name of the account, but on the right, my vendor is Red Cross. Okay? So account name is different from vendor payee. That's true for accounts with twos or without. So that is an important thing to distinguish, is the name of our account here, whether it's the name of the vendor or payee, can be completely different. Right here, account name can be different from the information under name or DBA on vendor payee. It will populate with whatever the account name is set to initially, folks, but if you want to make the payee different, you may certainly do so, the vendor name, okay, or the payee name. Good questions. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. Maybe it's taken folks a minute to enter those, maybe not. But again, we'll have this video recorded, or this recording put on our Support Center page here sometime in the next week or 10 days, folks. We may already have one out there. If you just go to the Support Center and type in the keyword liability, you may find that we already have a video out there from a previous version on the paying from a liability. In either case, if you have any questions, of course, we really appreciate you attending today's event. Please don't hesitate to contact our support technicians at 800-533-5227 or send email questions to us to support@churchwindows.com. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the event for everybody, and we hope to see you all at a future Church Windows webinar event. Thank you. Hope everybody has a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.